He was born in Nassau, Bahamas, on Ross Corner and Farm Road, now Market Street. He was the seventh of his mother's 8 children, an industrious, hard-working, and dedicated young man who, while still in high school, sold newspapers and got a job where he made money and took the advice of his mother not to waste it. At 14 years old, he was able to do something that was unprecedented then and probably impossible now. He started making payments for his first piece of property. At 17 years old, he was a property owner. He started his job in accounts at Batalco, the Bahamas' only telecommunication corporation, at 18 years old, educating himself through evening classes and courses that were offered from persons who came from abroad. He dedicated 42 years of his life there. He eventually became one of the names and faces of the business his wife Claudia started, Conliffe's Bakery, a Bahamian institution that up until the pandemic had existed for over 40 years. They competed at the time with a giant in the business and succeeded with the best cakes and breads on the island. In this episode of Bahamian Heritage Series, 84-year-old Mr. Andrew Conliffe. Can I have your full name, please?
Yes, Andrew Conliffe.
And your date of birth?
8 of December 1937.
Okay, where were you born?
Farm Road in Ross Corner, right on the corner.
Oh, wow, okay. And who were your parents?
My mother was Eudora Jessica Howard Conliffe, and my father was Martin Conliffe Sr.
Okay, so your mother's maiden name was Howard.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. I don't know if I know any Howards.
No, this is Barbadian descent.
Okay, and your father?
Barbadian.
Okay, interesting. Okay, so did you have siblings?
Mm-hmm.
How many?
It was 8 of us,
Mm-hmm.
different from my father's.
Okay.
My oldest brother, Dawson, was a school teacher.
Mm-hmm.
I remember people talk about Mr. Conliffe
Mm-hmm.
running behind the church and saying, with the cane and everything. And my oldest sister was Rosaline Briggs. She was married to Briggs. The second sister was Winifred.
Mm-hmm.
Then the other brother was Noel Conliffe.
Mm-hmm.
He got that name because he born on Christmas Eve.
Mm-hmm.
And then Martin was the one who played the piano all around. And that would be, I don't know if you know Warren now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's Warren's daddy.
Okay, all right.
Mm-hmm. And after him, it was Ivan, and then myself, and then Clem.
Okay.
Yeah, then my mom was children, but my father had more children. Mm-hmm.
So how did your parents end up in the Bahamas?
No, my mother's born here,
Okay.
but my father came here as a police.
Okay.
In those days, they used to bring the police from the Caribbean countries.
Mm-hmm.
And being a Barbadian, he leaned towards her people.
Okay.
And that didn't work out after a while.
Okay. So it was her parents that were from Barbados.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And how did they come?
By boat. They was leaving the Caribbean country years ago to make life a little better.
Okay.
My mom was born here in 1905, and they were coming. So you can see how long it was. They were coming. She was born. No, my aunt was born in Cuba.
Mm-hmm.
But see, I wouldn't even leave home pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. And so how old are you now?
84.
Okay, you're 84.
85 in December.
Okay. Where did you go to school?
The government schools, Western Junior, Western. Then I started at St. Agnes.
Mm-hmm.
They got a little corporate thing there. and then Western Junior, Western Senior, and then I did classes in the evening. Because my mother couldn't afford to send me to school, so I had to do what I had to do in the evenings. And going to Batalco to work helped me out because they wanted you to go back to school.
Right. Okay, so did all your siblings pretty much do the same routine as far as school is concerned?
No, the eldest one, they sent him to D-Government. Yeah, he was one of them. But by the time it reached to me, they didn't even have none for no government.
So where were you in the 8th?
7th.
Oh, you were one of the youngest.
Yeah.
Okay. The house that you lived in back then, is that still there?
No, that was my grand aunt's house. Right on the corner, and then she had, I think, 2 houses in the yard, and a little shop that she used to rent. That's how she lived.
So what's there right now? Do you know? Like if you were to go to that same spot right now?
It's a house there.
Okay.
But half of the property, they sold half, and they kept half with them.
And that is on
Ross Corner and Market Street.
Ross Corner and Market Street.
On the northern side.
Okay, all right.
But all of us were born in the same bed, because anytime she was having a baby, she went home to her mother and her aunt.
Okay, so she had her children at home.
Right, yeah.
Right, okay, interesting, very interesting. Okay, can you remember much about Ross Corner back in those days? Like, do you remember who the neighbors were, who your friends were, some of the activities that went on back there?
Well, when I left Ross Corner, I was 18. But the marriage, Sounders people, I knew a lot of them up through there, but I can't remember the names now.
Did the Wilsons live through there?
Way up.
Okay, way up.
Yeah, they were.
And then there were also other Barbadians, the Dr. here, right?
That's our old friend.
Dr. Aliens, yeah.
That's our old friend. Yeah.
Yeah.
And a sister. Yeah.
So back in those days, what was the political climate like?
It wasn't that bad. You know you were black and they knew they were white, but you had some good white people who people worked with and everything else. And they treated their people decent, the ones around them and everything else.
Right.
They would lend them money and for their homes and everything else, pay them back. But thing came after we became political. Because we didn't know anything about all of it. Yeah, it came political.
So did you feel any prejudice back then? Direct
No.
oppression?
No, not. We were poor people that didn't bother us over there. We didn't even know them. We saw them. Because the J.P. Sands food store was where Scotiabank is, right next to Russell Square. And we used to go there. The men used to serve the colored people, and the ladies served the white people in gloves and everything else. And we knew the people, Mr. Underwood and all of them, who would look out for you. They would save bones, meat bones and everything else, and you could buy them for a few cents. And that's the people who didn't have any money, and that's how you made your soup and everything else.
Okay.
And because some days my mama didn't have anything, especially after they separated. And you go home and you meet a duff there, and that wasn't the same. That was dinner.
Wow.
So when you get home from school, she'd have a duff for you.
Did you ever actually go without having food? You always had at least something to eat.
She can find something to eat for you, no matter what happened. And I used to deliver papers to Tribune, and one of my customers asked me once if I would like an evening job, but I said in school. He said, I know, it's only for 3 months, it's this winter, Bradley's Talent. And they were rich people from all over the United States, Canada. And they tip you. I used to answer the phone on the door. And the plug-in phone that you could take if somebody have a call, you could take it and plug it into them and everything. I said, they always tip you good. And my mama said, well, don't waste your money. And I went to this man who was selling Mr. Erskine's property for the Roman Catholics in Chippenham. And I went and asked if I could pay on one. He said, that's not legal. He said, you're just a little boy. I said, yes, but my mama don't want me to have this money and go into it, so I figured I could come to you. He said, I'm going to take it from you and I can take care of you. And then I asked, I said, but could I have a corner piece? He said, you're underage, you shouldn't be taking it, and you want the corner lot too? I said, yes, sir. He said, I can do it.
Wow. And how old were you?
14. 14.
What?
Only worked 3 months in the evening.
And you buying property?
But my mama said I couldn't waste the money.
Okay.
So by the time I reached 17, I was finished.
What?
Yeah, it took three years. I was finished with it.
Do you remember how much it cost?
No, I always have to look up and see what it is. I don't remember. And when her cousin, who owned the property, when he died, Claudia Wilkerson, she said, no, this could be something around here because his children are going to come. I said, well, we finished the property, this two-room house that you're in, and he gave it to you so we could move. We moved one Saturday night, put the house on rollers, and they move it. And they have people who, with sticks, just keep the electrical poles, wires and everything else. And that Saturday night we couldn't sleep because they got it down there.
Oh.
Yeah, and we were so happy to be in our own property. Yeah.
That's interesting.
And
did your family have a car?
no, when my father stopped being a police, he used to drive a taxi, so he had a car. And my first car I got it was an English car from Kelly's when I started working at Batalco.
Okay, so when did you start at Batalco?
18.
You were 18 years old. Okay.
I was in church, and Mr. Bowen, who was a big thing in church, asked me if I'm ready. So I said, ready for what, sir? He said to come to work. And I went home and I told my mom, I said, they ain't got no clothes to go. She said, you can get some to go to work. And that's when I went to Batalco.
Okay, so how old were you when you finished high school?
I had to be about 16, I guess. Yeah.
So by 18, you were going to Batalco to work. And what did you do there? What did they hire you to do?
Well, I started in accounts, and then I became chief cashier. Then I moved around, and eventually the accountant came from England, and I guess he probably liked me, and he made me his assistant, so I learned a bit of things from him, and then I went to the Oaksfield school in the evenings, and then later on I went to Government High in the evenings, and then I went to on being in Batalco, we got courses from away. People came in from University of Miami to sort of help us out on everything. So that's how I didn't have no formal education like going to thing. I was around when St. John's College started, but I knew better to even look in there. Yeah.
Okay. So how many years? Well, let me just ask you, at what point did you get married?
I was 25. Yeah.
And who did you marry?
Claudia Grant.
Okay. And you were 25 years old, so you were still at Batalco at that time, right?
Oh yeah, I left Batalco after 42 years.
42 years.
Yeah, and
Okay.
I wasn't finishing. The man said, man, Andrew, you have 5 more years. You know, I said, I have 5 more years, but not with coming in here. I said, I grew up under a different thing. So
You must have seen a lot of changes over those years.
oh yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
And
You probably could write a book.
And I always say that even with all that we have now, it was better in those days. Because I could remember when we got light, water, and telephone, and the TV, and I said to my mama, she said, I said, you're happy now? I said, you feel good? She said, happier? She said, no, not happy. You all are not here. You all gone. I said, you all are my happiness. So say things don't make you happy.
No.
She says, you all are my happiness. And then 40 odd years ago, when my brother Martin found out he had kidney problem, and I told him, I said, my mama complained. She said she was happier with just us. But now that we have things in a different house and all sorts of things, we don't, she's not as happy as she was when we were all in the little room.
That's interesting. Eh? Yeah.
So he said, well, that's what she said. Yeah. So when he got sick, Claudia would fix breakfast for him for 6 o'clock. Claudia's mother would fix out lunch for 1. And then by the time I got Claudia home from Dr. Rogers, because she had already started, she would have his dinner, and I would take it to him. So he said, oh, that's what my mama said. And he went there every day and lay down there. And she said, let me see if I can make her happy now. She was happy for him to be there, but she wasn't happy that he was sick. But she was pleased with that, with them being there, yeah. Well, I used to go out to Clifford Cook windows from Chippenham where we were living. And my mama said, well, you come from Batalco, you change and you go every day. So I said, in the back end there. She said, I said, yeah, it's depressing sometimes to be a young person in the back end. She said, well, let me tell you something. You people who make home comfortable will always stay home. And it wasn't until 3 years ago I realized what she was telling me.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what type of work did your wife do?
She was a secretary.
And you said she worked with Dr. Rogers?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I got to know you because my mother worked with Dr. Rogers. She was the secretary and my mother was the nurse.
And I love your mother because and she, if I go there with anything, all can take care of me and give me a needle or something and check and see how I'm doing in the afternoon. And she was one of the people that we love.
So at some point you established a business in the Bahamas that everybody at that time knew about.
Claudia, not me.
Okay, that was your wife. Well, you were the backbone behind it.
Well, he had a way. He even Grant had a way. She went to, after Dr. Rogers died, she went to Imperial Life to work in a room with, she said it was 11 ladies and she made 12. And she said, I can't work there. So I said, what do we got bills? She said, I cannot work there. She said, I don't have any bills. You have bills because I am leaving there. And she said, I'm going to do something else. And she started the cakes in there.
So had she made cakes prior to that?
Her mother was in charge of Dundas Civic Center. The Dundas Civic Center in those days, she used to teach you to go into the hotel and teach you white people from where we come in arts, which you have, but that's where people used to hire people for their homes from.
And what was her mother's name?
Elvira.
Elvira Grant.
Yeah.
Okay. So she was accustomed to baking, and she learned how to. So for her, that was something that was natural, and she started baking cakes at home. Okay. And then it kind of got really big.
Oh yeah.
I think Mommy told me that you would take cakes to work to sell.
To work, yeah.
To Batalco.
Yeah.
Right. And it became almost a household name. So at some point you named the business Conliffe's Bakery, right?
I just closed it when the pandemic came down. I closed it down.
So about what year you think that was that started? How long did she stay at Imperial Life?
It wasn't a year.
Okay.
No, she couldn't handle it. Even though she went to school in Jamaica, she went to St. Andrews boarding school for girls. She couldn't deal with it.
But the cake business turned out to be quite lucrative, right?
Yeah.
I mean, she was able to make a living.
Oh yeah.
And what are some of the things you remembered about the bakery? I mean, when did it really get to the point where you actually had an established business? How long did that take?
Not long, because her cakes were so good, and she took time. Const does it now, and Const takes time. She can't let nobody help her. And I said to Const, you probably need somebody help. She said, not me. Said, they ain't kill my business. So she do it from home.
So during that time, did you all deliver, or did mostly people pick
yeah,
up?
we deliver. Yeah.
Right.
I would come home lunchtime and deliver some for her, and people sort of like that. And then we didn't have the traffic that we have now.
True. Yeah, that had to have been in the late 70s, early 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the business continued for a long time until, like you said, until the...
Con still took doing it.
You had one son, Grant. Grant was quite popular.
Oh yeah.
Very talkative, well liked. Everybody loved Grant.
Even the lady who works with me now, Margot, when he's taking her home, you can tell her now, you ain't going straight home, you know. And he would stop, get something to eat for them, and it's nothing she liked better. She said she missed it.
Right.
Yeah.
So you had grandchildren too, right?
So
Two. Is it girls?
two girls, yeah.
What are their names?
Gabrielle and Gianna.
Gianna and Gabrielle.
Gabrielle is the oldest, and Gianna.
Okay, very nice. Yeah.
And Gianna just came out of school. She was at COB, applied to Central Bank, and they took her from May 1st.
Oh.
So that's where she is, and she loved it.
So growing up, what church did your family attend?
St. Mary's.
Okay, Anglican, right? So are you still going to St. Mary's?
No, I started Holy Trinity. I'm going to something they haven't 50 years ago. Sherry used to come there off and on, and all would come with us on some Sundays.
Okay, so that's still your church now, Holy Trinity?
No, I left. Father Boleg left. We left about 12 years ago. But they're having a 50th anniversary next week. We started, when Father Boleg left, we started the church right in here.
Okay.
And now we have, it's right down the road. Before you get to Glaston Road. Just a little church, it's less than $100. But it's really nice, because when you're not thinking of anything, one of them would come and said, call them, I said, you home? I said, yeah. They come with soup or something, you know. It's really nice.
Right.
So, but I go to Holy Trinity to funerals, people that I know, or they had a big service the other day, and I went to it. And I'm going to the banquet. They're having a black tie banquet.
50 years.
50 years, yeah.
Wow, so I remember when that church went there.
I remember when they were on the tent.
The tent, yeah. Yeah.
So the church that you go to now, who's in charge? You have a priest or?
Father Boleg was, but he died.
Oh, okay. So okay.
So we have somebody else who was with him. And, there's somebody at the Trinity said, "Will you coming back?" I said, "I'm 84. Which old person is go looking for a church?" I said, "I'm gonna stay right there."
Yeah, you with Jesus, right? So that's what's important, right? Yeah.
Because when I was having something special, we would go with her.
So having gone through your 84 years of life right here in the Bahamas, what advice would you have for anyone that would look at this video? What advice would you give, young or old, based on everything that you've learned?
That's the nicest thing is learning from people from yesteryear. They had a better life, a much better life.
And why would you say that is?
But our people like material things and too much of it.
So you are fully retired now?
I don't go out, but I go out on Sundays to church. And
how did you manage through COVID? That was a time, eh?
Just learned what my mom would tell me, make home comfortable, so I got a bigger TV.
Mr. Conliffe has weathered the storms of life with the loss of both his wife Claudia and his son Grant, but he holds on to his faith in God. He continues to be an inspiration to those around him, an example and a role model of what hard work and dedication can achieve. He maintains, with all we have, it was better when we had less. We celebrate and salute Mr. Andrew Conliffe in this edition of Bahamian Heritage Series. Preserve your family history with a video biography. Ask your parents and grandparents to tell the story of their lives. A personal history is a priceless gift for family, friends, and generations to come. Contact Barbara Wilson at 457-3188.